guys, it's Emily, and today I'm here to bring you another recent reads video. As always, I got 3 books to talk about, so let's just get right into it. The first book that I want to mention is The Bachelor Girl's Guide to Murder by Rachel McMillan. This is the first book in the Herringford and Watts mystery series, and this was the read-along that Sarah was hosting during March Mystery Madness during the March, and I did not get around to reading it, so I kept renewing it at the library. And finally, the last week of April, I read this book, so I was very pleased to have finally read it. This is about 2 girls, Miranda Herringford and Jim Watts, and they are both upper middle class women that live in Toronto in the 1910s, and they both are interested in solving mysteries, and Miranda in particular. This is definitely a Sherlock Holmes and then Watson tribute. Miranda is definitely the Sherlock Holmes figure, and then Jim is the Watson figure. And the 2 girls get caught up in a mystery when 2 women are found dead in public places. One is found at a theater, and then another is found at a public gathering in a ballroom. And they are both Irish immigrants that work as they work as factory workers, and they're lower class women. And Miranda and Jim believe that they were murdered because they knew things about some powerful men in Toronto, and they were working to solve this crime. And they also have the help with a man on the police force named Jasper, and a local newspaper man named Ray, who works for the local muckraker, yellow journalism type publication where he's solving, or he's writing about all the corruption and bad things that are happening. So anyway, it's just a really fun little mystery. There's a lot of romance. It's a clean mystery. It's published by Harvest House, which is a Christian publishing house, and it's a sweet romance. There's no sex or cussing or anything like that. It's just very sweet and pure. It was a really cute little book. I definitely recommend it. Had a great time reading it, and after I finished it, I went back and watched the live show that Sarah hosted, and it was a very nice listening to the ladies talk about their their thoughts on this book. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this if you're looking for a romance / mystery that's very light and easy and quick to get through. Really thought this was a great book. Next up, I actually have 2 books that I want to talk about at once, and that is the Heartstopper series, Volumes 1 and Volume 2. I saw Volume 1 on Jenny King's Instagram, and I was really interested, and I decided to pick up Volume 1 first, and then I went back and got Volume 2. And these are just 2 very quick, easy to read graphic novels. This series is about 2 high school boys, Nick and Charlie, and they live in the UK, in England, so I think it's called secondary school. And they actually, in the first book, they are friends, and then they end up towards the end of the book, they share their first kiss, and then in the second book, they are working through the relationship. In the first book, Charlie is already out as gay and at his school, and his friends and family know. Nick is working on, discovering who he is and talking through his sexuality with Charlie and some of his, close friends, and he also is dealing with the fact that he is part of a social group that is not very welcoming, and so he's coming to terms with who he wants to be as a person, who he's wanting to associate with. And it's just a really cute series. I definitely recommend both of them, and I'm really looking forward to when my library gets Volume 3, so I could get that. So let me show you some of the art. So it's just very simple green and black and white, and it's got this is Charlie and this is Nick, and it's just got about their love story and them. Well, this first one's more about them being friends because when they first meet, they just know each other by, reputation. They don't actually know each other. And then this has the same kind of art style, again with the green and the black and the white. So yeah, it's a really great series overall, and I definitely recommend both of them. And I believe that this series, including volumes 3 and 4, are available on Tumblr if you're interested in reading them and your local library doesn't have these actual bound copies. Finally, I wanted to mention Furious Hours, Murder, Fraud, and the Last Trial of Harper Lee by Casey Sepp. This is a nonfiction book, and I had this on my TBR for Nonfiction November last year, and I didn't get to it. It was for the time prompt, and I didn't get to it, so I decided to save it, and I finally got around to picking it up. And this is about the trial. Well, okay. So first of all, it's about a string of murders that happened in Alexander City, Alabama, which is a small town in northern Alabama, and these murders took place in the 1970s and were, so it's assumed that they were committed by this guy named Willie Maxwell, who was a local preacher, but there was no proof of that. But every one of the people that was murdered was either a family member or somehow associated with Willie Maxwell, and he had lots and lots of insurance policies out on various people, and after each one of these people died, he collected the insurance money. And so the state was trying to pursue a case against him, but they were not able to pin it on him. So it was more suspected that he did it, but it was never proven. And so eventually, at the funeral of his last victim, or last alleged victim, he was murdered by a relative of his last victim. And so then it moves into talking about the arrest and the trial of this murderer, whose name is, I want to say Roy, but I'm not sure. Hold on. His name is Robert Burns. So it moves into talking about Robert Burns and his trial, and it particularly focuses on the lawyer that defended Robert Burns, Tom Radney, who was a liberal politician, and he was he was a state senator for a while, and he ended up having to resign because of his liberal politics. He was supportive of the civil rights movement, and a lot of people in his area were not happy about that. So it talks about the trial and then his Tom Radney, and then it moves into Harper Lee, the author of To Kill a Mockingbird, because Harper Lee was interested in writing a book about this case. She had not ever written a book after To Kill a Mockingbird was published, and she got very interested in this case. She also worked with Truman Capote on the research for In Cold Blood. She traveled to Kansas with him, and so she had had experience with writing about true crime stories, and so we see how she began researching this, both Willie Maxwell's life and his alleged streak of crimes, and then the Robert Burns trial, and we see how that she did all that. She traveled back and forth between Alabama and New York, and then we see how it panned out that she ultimately never ended up writing her book, even though she worked on it for quite a long time. We also get a lot of biographical information about Harper Lee in the part where she features as well. So this book was very interesting. I learned a lot. It goes into a lot of detail about a lot of stuff. It talks about voodoo, because Willie Maxwell, a lot of people in his town, after all these murders started happening, thought that he was a practitioner of voodoo. It talks about the life insurance business. It talks the history of that. There's a whole chapter about the history of the life insurance business. It talks about, the process of writing In Cold Blood. It talks about Harper Lee's background. It talks about, state politics in Alabama. It talks about the civil rights movement. It just talks about a whole lot of different stuff. I will say I was a little disappointed because this book is very segmented. Like, part 1 is just Willie Maxwell, and then part 2 is just Robert Burns, and then part 3 is just about Harper Lee and her, research into this case. I guess I thought it was going to be like that Harper Lee came down during the trial and was there, and got to know the people that were associated with the crimes, and with the people in the town. And she did, but she didn't get to know them until after the case was over, and she she started writing this book, a long time after the cases actually happened. So it felt different. I mean, I wasn't expecting it to be so segmented. I thought it was going to flow together more. But overall, I really enjoyed this book, and I would definitely recommend it. I thought it was very interesting. Like I said, I learned a lot. It was very fast moving. This is another one of those nonfiction books that I would recommend if you are just getting into nonfiction. Because I thought it was really great. And I don't know that much about Alabama. I've never even been to Alabama as far as I can remember, except maybe possibly driving through once or twice when I was a kid. So I was really interested and learned a lot and thought it was a really interesting read. So that's all I've been reading lately. I hope everybody else has been reading some great books, that you're keeping safe and healthy, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye!